USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at USAA.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Now from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the all-important Sunbury Motors guarantee, because they go over each vehicle with a fine-tooth comb. And to make a one-stop shopping, a great service department that backs it up every step of the way. Where there happens to be inspections, quick lane, routine, difficult, they handle it all at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. 14 years ago, she was covering the NCAA tournament at Penn State's trip to Tucson for the Daily Collegian. Now she's one of the absolute best in the business, working with ESPN's NHL coverage, and that is Emily Kaplan. Emily, it's so great to hear you.
Steve, it's so great to hear you, too, and thank you for that kind intro. I have such fond memories of that trip to cover the NCAA tournament, Taylor Battle. I think that was his senior year. They went and done that first round, but it was a really fun time, and I owe so much of my success to all the things that I learned at Penn State, specifically at the Collegian, and all the opportunities they gave me.
It's interesting because, your background is in writing. All right. And to me, and I tell my broadcasting class all the time, take writing classes. You need all of it. What, though, was able to allow you to transition to broadcasting, and how much does writing help you with that?
Oh, my goodness. That's such good advice to any student or anyone trying to break into this business. I think just in any business in general, if you know how to write, so many doors open for you. I think getting on TV is all about reps. I remember the first regular TV reps I got were in Around the Horn, and I'm feeling very sentimental right now because the show is coming to an end, and it has such a special place in my heart, and so many different people have been able to appear on that show. I think from a writing background, we learn how to self-edit, and sometimes you only get a very short window where we're allowed to go on air and present our point. And so I'm constantly thinking of word choice, how to best present that information, and I don't think I would have done it as well as I have if I didn't have a background in writing. And somebody who, by the way, that you then associated with at one point, my old Little League teammate, Peter King, all these connections along the way. But Peter was somebody, to his credit, that got into verbal and also television media. How much did that experience help you, just working and being around somebody like that? Oh, he was the best mentor anybody could ever ask for. I was lucky enough that I grew up in the town that he was living in when he was writing for Sports Illustrated and also working on NBC and Football Night in America. And I remember his advice to me when I got to Penn State was get experience doing everything. Work for the TV station, work for the radio station, work for the student newspaper. And I didn't listen to him. I just wrote. Again, I'm really proud of my writing background, but then I had to get a lot of my first reps, being on air in a professional setting, which I wish I'd gotten early on. But Peter is just a master storyteller. I think the one thing that I really took away from him is to never forget the human element. I think that's what gravitates us to sports. The way that we can tell stories about life through the realm of sports, about success and sacrifice and anguish and overcoming obstacles. And all of those are human elements, and Peter never forgets that. And he just treats everyone like a human being. He's genuinely curious. He just wants to know why and how. And those natural follow-ups I know that I carry with me every single NHL broadcast that I do. Yeah, in fact, I think he's working at Seton Hall now, helping out there. So he's, again, passing along all that great knowledge he has. And by the way, growing up, he was a better hitter than me. Well, you guys can get on the diamond now and see who does better.
Yeah, still sense it's going to be the redhead. It's not going to be me. Look, an area where a lot of people, I have an appreciation for this. I think that your in-game interviews with coaches are thoroughly outstanding because you have a time frame. It's short. And you get right to the point, and you understand that the answer is what people are listening for, not the question. And I think that part, I think you've mastered. What has it taken for you to understand that time frame, to ask the quick, to the point question that gets the right answer?
Well, Steve, I appreciate you saying that, and I think that part of my job is to understand my role, and I've had to humble myself. And yes, I do get this platform of being on national TV, but as the reporter, I have the privilege and the access to be in game and ask these questions that all the fans watching want to know. And so for me, it's not about myself. Like, I can go up there, and my biggest pet peeves when reporters go, like, I noticed that you guys switched, your neutral zone coverage in the second period, and that's why you've, stymied them on defense. What are your thoughts? And it's like, okay, well, who cares what I think? We want to hear what they think. Right. So, my philosophy has always been open, lean, and neutral. Again, understanding the time constraints, like no need for extraneous words, get to the point. Neutral, don't lead them on in either way, but open questions as well, where it can't just be a yes or no, where we're forcing them to explain, what they're seeing. And I think that, again, from my position of privilege, where I get to be there, I get to inform the audience and let them, hear from these guys that they want to hear from. So that's always been my philosophy. I think that sometimes I hear like, oh, Emily Kaplan asked such dumb questions.
Oh.
I'm like, well, they're kind of dumb by design. Trust me, like I know what I'm doing here, and I think what I'm getting out of it is a better understanding of the game, because really in hockey, all we're talking about is grow the game, and we want to hear from these guys and understand it better and spread the wealth and spread the, gospel that this is an amazing sport with amazing people in it.
And Nathan McKinnon just proved that, by the way, that's an unbelievable story, which I'll get to a little bit later. But I point you out to my broadcasting class, and I said, listen to the question she asks. I said, because she's standing there, I already know that she knows what she's talking about. Now she's trying to get them to tell everybody else what's going on out there. I said, that's the purpose of the question. That's why I tell the class all the time, and I do cite you as a great example. I said, limited time frame. She doesn't have to prove to the world that she knows something. Just by the pure question, it already tells you that she knows something.
Well, that's super kind, Steve, and thank you for, using me as an example. I think that, again, as a sideline reporter, amazing that we get to be on TV and we get to, be a part of all these incredible broadcasts. And they travel me around North America to cover the coolest games, and it's amazing. At the same time, I just feel like it's my responsibility to not make it about myself.
Right.
And I think I put in a lot of prep that doesn't get seen, during the week and right before, even you and I got on the phone. Like, I'm covering the Penguins-Devils game tomorrow. And so I'm calling all these people to try to get background information on these guys so that when I do get in those positions to ask questions, I know what I ask can elicit a good answer. And so I think that's another lesson to students is there's so much work that goes behind the scenes that doesn't get seen. But if you are well prepared in the end, you'll get better material out of it. And even, it's almost just like show, don't tell.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I try to tell them, because between football, baseball, basketball, I'm probably doing about 90 games a year. I said, it's all the hours that people don't see, that people don't realize that you put into something like that. I have to ask you about Four Nations, because when I first heard Four Nations, and again, just heard about it, I thought, oh, that's an interesting gimmick. And then I watched it, and I went, oh, my goodness. What was it like for you seeing it firsthand, the intensity of it?
Yeah, I think people who are around hockey understood that this was going to be a really competitive tournament because, again, I talk to these guys all of the time, and I know that the one thing that the top players have been most passionate about are representing their countries. And so many of these stars that we have right now, like Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews, haven't been able to do that in their prime. And I knew, even though this tournament was in the middle of an NHL season, even though it's only 4 countries, we're excluding a lot of really great hockey players and hockey nations, they were going to show out and they were going to put on a performance. I felt really privileged because I was in such a good position to cover it well. Again, I know all of these guys. I knew the stories. Once all the eyes were on hockey, I just felt like me and our entire broadcast crew, we had put in the work over the last several years to be able to really present this to America in the way that it needs to be presented. And it was just so cool by the end to see the momentum it got because so many more eyeballs were on hockey. And I think people realize that they underestimate the passion and emotion that hockey players play with.
I mean, you will do a lot of post-game with them as well. Now, the questions are a little more extensive in post-game. You have more time. But something that people have told me for years, and I know I've experienced it, as well, hockey players are the best people to talk to. They seem to understand that they need to go out of their way more. Is that how you find them?
I do. I find them to be very humble. I think that, the biggest difference from covering the NFL, where I used to cover, to hockey is that in NFL, you can go up there and stick your microphone in anyone's face and tell me why you're great. And they're like, well, I'm great because of X, Y, and Z. Hockey, that's just not going to cut it. These guys don't even use the pronoun I sometimes. They say we or you. It's just like this weird tick. They're so deferential. But we want to highlight their stories. And so I think when you understand how to craft the question to get them to open up, to kind of explain a little bit about who they are, what motivates them, you realize how special these individuals are. And I think that selflessness is what makes the sport so fantastic because it really is. I mean, think of a star player like Connor McDavid. He's only playing a third of a game. He's so reliant on his teammates. So I'm appreciative that they're very down to earth. Very approachable. But I would like them to brag a little bit more because I do think what they do is pretty spectacular.
Yeah, it is. There's no question about that. They're magicians out there. I mean, I asked Jack Michaels, and Jack's an Oil City guy from Pennsylvania who does the Edmonton Oilers games, and the privilege of watching McDavid and Draisaitl every single night. And it is a privilege to watch those guys. With the way the regular season has gone, and you've seen the cream rising to the top, how exciting, not just how exciting, but how close do you expect this Stanley Cup playoff to end up being based on the talent level?
I think what hockey does better than anybody else is creates a tournament where if you get in, and it's really hard to get in, and the parity is strong, you look at the Eastern Conference race right now, and really the West too, like that last spot's up for grabs. It's, only half the teams can make it. But once you're in, it's anybody's game, and it's all about who's most prepared. It's a war of attrition, who's the most healthy, and which stars or maybe even the supplements and, the secondary players are ready to step up. And I think that's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs so magical, so captivating. 2 years ago, we had a team like the Florida Panthers, who were the last team in, got in the very last day of the season, and then upset the Boston Bruins, who broke the record for the NHL's most regular season wins and make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. So it's really hard to handicap who's going to be the favorite, and I think that's why so many eyeballs get on hockey again in Stanley Cup playoffs. And this year, I could not tell you who the favorite is. I couldn't even tell you the teams that are going to make it in the end, and that's the best. It's just so fun.
What is it about the Ovechkin chase that is so intriguing to you as this plays out near the end?
I just think that these are some the unbreakable records in sports, right? Like we thought this, when Wayne Gretzky scored all those goals, you're like, no one will ever do it like this. The game has changed. Guys don't score goals like this anymore. So even just the fact that we're here and now it's inevitable, I think is incredible. And then I just think what a character Alex Ovechkin is. I mean, I'm there. I cover a ton of Washington Capitals games. Like, he's literally still drinking soda on the bench. Before road trips, he has his go-to order of the spicy Italian sub from Subway and hot Cheetos. And we think of elite athletes these days, and their body is their temple. And Alex Ovechkin's very serious. He trains really hard. He came back from a broken leg this season and hasn't missed a step. But just kind of the folklore of Alex Ovechkin and just kind of how every man he can be in so many ways, at the same time just be, so spectacular. And the fact that, scoring, some of these goals on empty nets, but he really is a competitor, and he really is the heartbeat of that team. He wants to win more than anything else. He wants another Stanley Cup, and I think you saw that the other night when, he had a chance for another goal. It was an empty net situation, and he passed it to his teammate, a young guy named Alexei Protas, who's having a breakout year, because Alexei Protas got the empty net goal, and that was his first ever hat trick, and I think that's a really good captain.
See, now that's team. That's the we part of it you were talking about. What's interesting about the broadcast is this. Sean's upstairs. Ray is between the two benches. You're located in another spot where eventually you'll get between the two benches. How interesting is it to coordinate something when there are three broadcasters in three different locations?
Yeah, it's funny because, this is really all that I've known because this broadcast crew I've been with in my entire broadcasting career. I'll jump around sometimes, and I get to work with Bob Wischusen and John Buccigross, Steve Levy, and Mike Monaco is a young guy that's coming up that's really, really talented. But largely it's this setup. I think that we're really lucky, and I'm really lucky to work with Ray Ferraro because he's been doing this for so long, and he prefers to be between the benches because as an ex-player, he feels like he sees things the way that players develop that make him a better analyst. And he's just been such a great teammate in finding ways to work in my reports and build off my reports and incorporate me into the broadcast. And, I think sometimes they'll step on each other's toes, but largely I'm so impressed by the way that they navigated. And, again, Sean McDonough is, such a professional, covers so many different sports, has done it for so long. And so I just feel really lucky that I've been able to work with them and learn from their experience because they've done this far longer than I have, and they've been very inclusive.
Yeah, Sean. I don't know Ray at all. Sean, I've known for a long time. Sean's the best. I'll be driving along on Sirius XM. You can pick up everybody, and suddenly he'll show up in the Red Sox game, and I'll text him and go, "Now there's normalcy back in the Red Sox booth." It's like, it just feels better that way. Emily, congratulations on everything you've accomplished so far. You're doing such great work, and we look forward to what's going to be a great April, May, and June with the Stanley Cup. The only bummer is that, and it's, with all due respect, the great people at TNT do a great job, but it's their turn on the final this year. But thanks so much for your time.
No, I appreciate you, Steve. And next time I get to State College, I hope it's soon. Would love to say hi and catch up. But I always appreciate you, and thank you for the support. Anytime,
Emily, and I look forward to seeing you the next time you get into town. The outstanding and one of the best in the business, Emily Kaplan, ESPN, and they've got the game tomorrow, the Devils and the Penguins coming up. And we will come back with more in a moment. This half hour being brought to you by our good friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
There's something to be said about a sale with a handshake, a service technician who really knows what he's doing. They can explain it in English what the problem is. There's nothing better than having that friend you could trust in the area. That's Sunbury Motors, where you get selection, knowledgeable salespeople, and prices that fit your budget, and more important, that friend you can trust. Welcome to Sunbury Motors, Kia, Ford, and Hyundai. You could shop other dealers and compare prices, but at Sunbury Motors, you get their lowest price promise. They research the current used vehicle market and guarantee their used car prices are the lowest. If you find a lower price, Sunbury Motors will beat it. 3 dealers all in one. See their full new and pre-owned inventory at sunburymotors.com. Pick out a vehicle you like and schedule your test drive online. Follow them on Facebook. Sunbury Motors Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
The best get-togethers start with a trip to the beverage supermarket, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury. Why? Because Brewers Outlet has not only a great selection of beer, including imports and microbrews, but also a lot more. Brewers Outlet has water, soda, they roast their peanuts every day, and you can't forget about stopping by the Pickle Bar. Look for great deals on wine coolers and all your favorite snacks. Before you enjoy those special times with family and friends, make your visit first to the Beverage Supermarket, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Dave Spadaro joining us. Dave, first of all, welcome back. It is so great to have you with us.
Steve, it is always my pleasure.
I'll start with the Eagles. The Campbell pick. When you're in there, that spot like Philadelphia, you're looking to refine. You don't need to change. Last year we talked about about Mitchell falling to them just in the right spot, no need to move up, and they get Campbell in that spot. What was your thought?
I was very surprised, of course, that Campbell was there, and they in fact had tried to move up to 22 to get him,
yes.
And so ended up only giving up the 5th-round draft pick. So very good value. Kid who comes in and helps you in a bunch of different ways, and somebody with a really high upside, someone who doesn't need to come in and be a difference maker right away, somebody who's very, very used to this high level of competition, somebody who's used to success, somebody who's extremely talented. So, and the stealing for Jihad is just amazing. Jihad Campbell came in on Friday. He was so comfortable. He was so happy. It's going to be fascinating to see what Vic Fangio does with him. I think we are all jumping the gun a bit, predicting that he's going to be this or that. Mm-hmm. He's a multi-talented player. After the draft, I always talk to scouts, people who've watched a lot of him, and he really kind of did it all for Alabama on defense. Now, has the shoulder injury. Eagles confident that he'll be healthy. Oh, yeah. That is not a worry. But he helps you off the edge. He helps you as an off-ball linebacker. There are a lot of things that Jihad Campbell does well in a defense that already has so many pieces.
Not only just so many pieces, but a lot of versatile pieces. You have multi-positional players at certain spots in that team. And, for Vic Fangio, it's got to be a luxury that you can plug and play certain guys because you can move them across the chessboard.
Yeah, when you're a quarterback, you're always looking across the line of scrimmage and trying to account for different players and what you anticipate them doing. And I think it's really difficult to do that with some of the pieces. As you say, in this defense, is Zach Bond coming on a blitz? Will you see Jihad Campbell coming off the edge? I mean, where are you dropping out some of these defensive linemen in coverage? Is Cooper DeJean playing inside at the corner, or is he going to play on the outside on this down? He can do both things. So, it really does add a lot of versatility. Their safeties play that way. Now they've got some linebackers to do that. And so, again, to get somebody of Jihad's upside is really exciting for the Eagles.
No question. Not only that, my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong about this, I think the Eagles had Campbell in their top 10 on their board and got him at 31.
I would say top 10 to 15.
Yeah.
I would say top 10 to 15, right around there. Yeah. And it's interesting, they didn't bring him in for the top 30 visit. They did not bring him in. They certainly talked to him out at the combine, but they just did not expect him to be there. And so when you have somebody like that drop into your lap, you make the move. I've always said this about how he will only trade up, even if it's one space, for what he thinks is a special talent. Did it with Jalen Carter. Yep. Did it here with Jihad Campbell. Yeah. We'll see what kind of impact he makes.
So, C.J. Gardner-Johnson gets traded to Houston. Darius Slay signs with the Steelers. So they go with Andrew Makuba out of Texas in round 2. They picked 64. What was your thoughts on him? He did lead the SEC in interceptions last year.
Yeah, very similar to what C.J. does. And when I spoke to people who really know Steve, now I am not a draft expert, so when I'm talking about these players, I'm giving you what I have been told about them. I find it very unfair to do otherwise.
And that's very
another
fair.
kid
That's very fair. I think you just described the show.
Yeah, but somebody who's just in playmaker, missile, smaller, willing to tackle, somebody who's willing to play the run, somebody who's going to do a lot of things in different ways, how they ask their safeties to play. I find it really interesting how the Eagles kind of like put this whole thing together, and somebody like Andrew is a tremendous athlete, can play with a lot of coverage ability, and he'll just, and we've seen the highlights, he'll knock your helmet off. And so that kind of tempo, that kind of energy, that's something that C.J. Gardner-Johnson brought to the table for the Philadelphia Eagles, and certainly Sidney Brown will have a chance to be a playmaker there, as will Andrew Makuba.
Yeah, and again, talk about a 4-year starter. There's something about that experience that means something to me. Now, the only Nebraska player I put on my old Big Ten list was Ty Robinson, and the Eagles took him in round 4. Then they got McWilliams out of Central Florida, Mondon from Georgia, another linebacker, Drew Kendall from Boston College, played, and then they got Kyle McCord, Miles Hinton, whom I really like, from Michigan, Cameron Williams from Texas. So when you look at Hinton and Williams, what is it about the Eagles' ability to develop offensive linemen, not just plug and play offensive line, but develop them?
So, Steve, here's the thing I think about those picks. I think those picks are boom or bust kind of picks.
Yeah.
You say, look, we need to, at some point here, really replace Lane Johnson. I mean, at some point he's going to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So Cameron Williams and Miles Hinton, here's an opportunity for you to work with the best offensive line coach in the NFL and to be a great football player. It's all up to you. It is right in front of you. We will provide you with all the tools. And Williams in particular, they think his ability is extraordinary. So I see a guy like that, and I look and I think about Jordan Mailata, and I say, wow, maybe there is somebody who can kind of be that next, late round, outstanding kind of player.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what you're looking for there. I mean, it's not just the player as he is. It is, Steve, as you say, the ability to develop players is really, to me, what has separated these last several Eagles teams. These coaching staffs have been terrific, and they've done just a great, great job doing so. So Williams and Hinton, both long Eagles-looking safeties, Eagles body types, and they're going to have an opportunity to, in a very competitive situation, win a job and really take their games to the highest level.
Dave, when you talk to people who are in the coaching profession or you talk to the players and you bring up Jeff Stoutland, what are the traits that he has that you've been told that make him one of the best in the business? It's
Steve, I mean, look, I respect every single coach in the National Football League. They work so very hard,
yes.
But, there's some who just stick to their formula, and Stout sticks to the formula, and he's really tough on you, and he does not let you get too comfortable. And the players who understand that and who appreciate that and who get that he is working to make them better, they're the ones who benefit the most. And, his track record is unbelievable. He's the best offensive line coach I've ever seen, and it is the same message. And when you are an offensive lineman, it is a boring job. You are out there holding bags and working on your footwork and your hand placement, and it's terrible. But my gosh, look what he's done. So he's got the things he looks for: ankle flexibility, the mobility that a player has, the physical tools, arm length, body type, strength, etc. The ability intellectually to handle it all and to work together. The Eagles, I always feel great about this offensive line. Now they've got 4 of their 5 starters signed long-term now that Cam Jorgens has signed his deal. And so, this offensive line should be, moving forward again, one of the best in the league, if not the best. And when you have that, your offense is going to be fine.
Jalen Hurts is among the best in the business. It sounds like the Eagles have a lot of faith in Tanner McKee, but you always need a third guy, and they traded away Kenny Pickett. for the people at St. Joe's Prep, they had to be thrilled. Kyle McCord was their 6th-round pick. In listening to the Eagles, what did they like about him, and what is it about Tanner McKee they really like him? And when you've watched him, what do you like about him?
Yeah, I'll tell you first about McCord. Quick processor, accurate thrower,
Yes.
throws anticipation, decent arm talent, NFL-level arm talent, sees the field well. So went through some tough times transferring out of Ohio State, going to Syracuse, and taking that team another level with not a whole lot around him. So Eagles pretty happy with him. You saw that Syracuse didn't have a whole lot around him.
Yep.
So I think Tanner McKee is just an outstanding prospect. Like tall, again, fast, more athletic than you think. Gets the ball out quickly. Good arm. The opportunity to develop behind Jalen Hurts has really, really benefited Tanner. We will see a lot of him in the preseason. I happen to believe that at some point in his career, he will be a starter somewhere. He will win a lot of football games, and he'll be an outstanding quarterback. I think he's got it all. Now, if you want something, you want to pick at him, you go, well, maybe he's not as athletic as you want your quarterback to be, but he's pretty sneaky, quick with his feet. He can move around a little bit, and the arm is a lot better than people think.
Yeah, because they got him in round 6. I mean, they seem to take that round 6, and they get value at a spot because, I mean, when I watched them in the preseason, Dave, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's the preseason. I really don't put tremendous stock in it. But then I watched them in the Giants game. That's the same guy I saw in the preseason. He's pretty darn good.
And they ran the offense there. They had the boots, they had the rollouts, they had a lot of design in the passing game. It was not just like a screen, easy passes stuff for Tanner. They wanted to challenge him. He responded to the challenge, and the Eagles' backups beat the Giants' starters. So really good performance there from Tanner, and a very bright future. 2 years left on his contract, I believe, right? 2 years left. This is his third year?
I think that's right, Yeah, he was in the 2023 draft.
Yeah, and so, we'll see. I'm really intrigued to see where his career takes him next.
Yeah, I am too, only because, again, I'm with you. I mean, I got to give him credit. He looks like, let me put this, you put a quarterback in a spot like that, okay? And he was a 2-year starter at Stanford. But he looked like he belonged. See, to me, that's the bottom line. Does the guy look like he belongs? Right? And you can tell right away with a quarterback, like, I don't know.
Does he command? But also, does he have command?
Yeah, he's got all of it.
The moment was not big for him. The moment was not too big for him at all. I really think this kid has huge upside. And I'm actually kind of surprised, Steve. And maybe they did, and we just don't know about it. The teams didn't kind of knock on the door with this quarterback, wasteland in the NFL and ask about Tanner McKee. I am a little surprised that, the Steelers wouldn't do that. I mean, if you can't see the upside with Tanner, then you're not looking very hard.
Yeah. No, I mean, he's one of those guys where, measurables he has, okay, it's fine. But then, watching him in the preseason, watching him in that game against the Giants, the guy can play. Which now, okay, on the blue-white game broadcast, and look, just so everybody knows, you try to have a little fun there on it. We came out of a commercial break, and I looked over and I saw Shedeur Sanders was selected. So I said, I looked over at Jack Ham and said, Jack, by the way, good news, the long national nightmare is over. Shedeur Sanders has been picked. I mean, like I said, you and I aren't going to sit here and be draft experts, and I did not see, except for watching him on TV, I've never seen Sanders in person. I never have. I mean, I said he had 3 things that went against him. And it's what I call the SAM principle, S-A-M. Okay? Size, doesn't really have it. Arm strength doesn't really have it. And mobility definitely doesn't have it. I said, I thought those are the 3 football things that worked against him. What was the conversation like about him, either with people within the organization that privately wanted to talk about him or with other reporters or whatever? What was that like?
Well, I mean, internally with Eagles, I didn't hear much about, in fact, I heard nothing about Shedeur Sanders. The Eagles certainly have a connection to Colorado with Pat Shurmur, their offensive coordinator. With the Buffs, is a former offensive coordinator and for one game a head coach here. A lot of people know him. So anything they knew about Shedeur, they could confirm or reinforced with conversation with Pat. So I really heard nothing about Shador, and just other than what you hear from like other reporters that he interviewed really poorly, didn't show a lot of respect when he interviewed, and then the dad thing. Like, if you're the Giants, for example, and you draft Shador and you lose 2 or 3 games, aren't the media going to be asking about the future of your head coach? And aren't they going to be asking prime time if he's looking to be the head coach of the New York Giants? Like, I think there's a lot that goes with that selection. So that's kind of what I heard from the reporters. But again, internally, really, to my level, no conversation about Shador. I just didn't think he was part of the picture.
It just got to be, I don't know, in watching such a distraction, watching the whole thing. Like, like Tyler Shuck gets picked. You'd act like the Saints made the biggest mistake on the face of the earth. You and I have no idea if they made a mistake or not.
Well, that again, that goes back to the hot take, and it's just something that I don't do. I mean,
you're right. Same here.
I did it when I was a young reporter. I just can't do it now. It's just not fair, and it's disrespectful to the scouts, the people in my building here who work tirelessly to evaluate these players.
Yeah, I mean, this is what they do. Look, so I try to tell everybody all the time. It doesn't mean that the teams, general managers, and scouts don't make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Rare on this show, by the way. No, I'm just kidding. Everybody makes mistakes. But they're trying the best they can to evaluate players because, part of their reputation on the ability to evaluate correctly. Whomever, for example, evaluated Jalen Hurts got it right. Okay? That's what you're looking to do, be as right as possible. There's nothing personal about this for people except being right.
Well, it's also being right is not necessarily, you see a lot of players leave one team and have success elsewhere. It's not just, Steve, about the talent and evaluating the talent. They've got to come into the right system. Mm-hmm. They've got to be able to handle the moment. They've got to get the right coaching. They've got to be in the right scheme. And so I've always thought that position coaches are, the second most important part of a player's ability to have success in the NFL. Talent, desire, for sure. But coaching is right up there, and
good point.
I don't really start evaluating them until I see them with the Philadelphia Eagles. That starts this upcoming week with the rookie camp, and it's a long road to playing time. And for the players, it goes extremely quickly. These new guys, and you kind of see who can handle the moment, who's kind of cowering and withering under the intense lights of Philadelphia. Last year's draft class, Steve, was a great draft class. I look at this roster, and I cannot believe the depth on this team, the young depth on this team. And they've got 9 draft picks with compensatory picks potentially coming next year. It's a really great situation for the Philadelphia Eagles now and moving forward.
And anybody that's listened to the show has heard me forever talk about recruiting and or transfers. And people will ask me, well, what do you think of this or that? And I'll say, as soon as I see them in person, I'll let you know. I don't start my evaluation of a player until I have the chance to actually see them in person. I know that I can look at a video. I mean, you talked about Syracuse. Penn State evidently has a commitment from a transfer from Syracuse that played with McCord. I may watch a video of it just to get myself at least a head start on a guy. But I'm not going to, until I see how he fits actually into the Penn State offense in person, I really am not going to say much about him.
Hey, look, I mean, and I get it. It's really tough. We're in a society, everybody wants a hot take. Everybody wants instant gratification. There's a reaction to be had. But it's just, it's not fair and it's not accountable. And it just puts kids, these are kids. And so give them a chance to develop. And, for Shador, I hope in Cleveland he's able to kind of play worry-free. I watched him in Colorado. My daughter went there. I'm a Colorado fan. So I appreciate what he did for the university as a football program, and hopefully he has success in the NFL.
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself, Dave. Always enjoy our conversations. Insightful, and you give the fans a lot to think about, and I appreciate any time you give us, Dave.
Steve, thank you so very much for having me, and really enjoyed it. We'll talk as we get closer to the unbelievable 2025 season
2020,
right around the corner.
Okay, but remember, May 14th is the schedule release, so, I want to make sure, Dave, you're on the edge of your seat.
I will be on the edge of my seat for that one. Penciling in wins and losses immediately.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
Here's a word for you.
Hey, Steve, thanks so much.
Here's a word for you. Not. You and I don't do that.
Right. Yeah, right.
Dave.
Well, I do. Look, I'm a Philadelphia Eagles guy. I pencil in win. There are no losses.
17 in a row. Dave, thank
Always,
you.
every year. Thanks, Steve. Have a great day.
You're the best, man. Thank you. Dave Spadaro. Great to have you with us on the show today. It's been brought to you by our good friends at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket, here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.